Hi, and welcome to another one of my Unity and Playmaker tutorials. I'm going to do a short little series here on multiplayer using Pun 2. It's free. You can get it from the Unity Asset Store. Just search Pun 2 and you'll be able to find it right on the Unity Asset Store and add it to your assets and then import it into your project. You also need to create an account on photonengine.com. And to start out with, the type of app you would want to create is Photon Pun. If you wanted to do voice, you'll need to get Photon Voice. I think chat. Yeah. So you'll get Photon Pun. You'll need a Photon Pun app, a Photon Voice app, and a Photon Chat app. I actually haven't done chat yet. Using their Photon Chat. I actually created my own chat using Photon Pun. Maybe I'll demo that one day. But today we're just going to look at basic setup of Pun, and then maybe we'll even do a little bit of character setup. We'll see how much time we got. But you definitely need to have a Photon Pun application. I'm just going to call this multiplayer demo. All right, and that's really all you need. You don't have to have a description or a URL. And then you're going to get the app ID. And in Unity, after you've already imported your Pun2 package, there should be a setup wizard that'll do this for you. Actually, it'll look like this Pun wizard, and you can set up the project. I'm actually in an older version of Unity than I usually use, and I don't think it looks like this in the newer versions of Pun. I think I have an old version of Pun. I'm just gonna go to Setup Project. You can put in your email address, or it's easier just to put in the app ID. All right, I'm all set up now. Now, if you ever lose your Photon settings, you can just go to Window and go to Photon Unity Networking and highlight Server Settings. And what that does is it goes into your project folder and it highlights it for you. One thing I like to do first off when I get set up is if I'm also going to be doing voice and chat, I'll go ahead and get those added in here. But I'm going to just go ahead and give this an app version. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to call it 0.1. And I'm going to set a fixed region as US. I'm going to set my dev region as US. You can Google search Pun region codes and you can find out what your region codes are. But I have found a lot that even if I tell it to connect to Best Cloud Server, which I'll show you soon, even though I'm in the US, sometimes it'll just randomly connect to Europe, Russia, Canada. So I put these as US, but even that's not enough. You have to go into your dashboard and go to Manage, and down here in the regions whitelist, it's defaulted to all. So I'm going to edit my whitelist, and I'm going to add US, then a colon, and save. This way, no matter what happens while I'm testing, it'll always stay in the US region. Because if it switches to another region, I might not realize it, and I'm wondering, why am I not seeing the other player? So definitely set up a whitelist for your region. Whoever's going to be, even if people are helping you test that aren't in the same region, just whitelist it to one. That way you don't have to worry about them bouncing around. I'll eventually show you how to put in logic to check the region, make sure they're in the right region and stuff like that. But this is just going to make it easier for you starting out. And make sure you have Playmaker installed. And then you'll want to go to Playmaker Add-Ons and want to have the ecosystem installed. I've demoed that in several of my previous tutorials, I believe. But in the Playmaker ecosystem, you're just going to search Pun. And you want Playmaker Pun 2. Now there are some demos and there's a Pun 2 simple connection. Those are worth getting. But that's basically what we're going to do today, and some things have changed, and I found just some really easy ways to set up multiplayer. So I should already have the Pun2 Playmaker package, so I'm not, well, maybe I don't. I probably have an older version. Because at the time it wasn't in the ecosystem anymore, so I had to pull it from somewhere else. Yeah, I got Playmaker Pun2 right here. One tip, whenever you're actually importing from the package manager, when you're importing Photon, My Assets, Pun. When you're importing Pun, let's see if it'll let me fake it. Should. Jeez. Well, anyways, whenever it's importing Pun, you get that when you import a package, you get a huge list of stuff. I recommend going in all the demo scenes, all the demo folders, uncheck those and uncheck any examples. You don't want all that extra garbage because you're learning how to do it right here, and those examples aren't going to help you, especially if you're using Playmaker because they're like scripted examples. And I've also found like some of the materials and some of the scripts in there have conflicted with other assets I've used. So I found that just keeping those demo boxes unchecked and the examples unchecked, don't import those. It'll help you out a ton. But if you've already have them in a project, just look at your console. If you see the conflict, it's most likely just a demo, and you can go into Photon, and you know what? I probably don't even, Photon, yeah, Photon. Looks like I don't have the demos in here in this one. Yeah, there we go, demos. So like if there's a Photon chat demo, deleted. Photon, Unity networking, demos, it's literally just deleted. All right, so same thing when you're importing Photon voice. Don't get those demos, okay? You'll thank me later. All right, so one thing I really like to do, and recently I've been jumping around my layouts a lot, so I'm just gonna go back to default layout. Ooh, pretty. All right, nice big space. And let me get my Playmaker editor. Don't show on startup. And I'm not even going to use this right away. So one thing that I like to do, because you really need to know what's going on every step of the way whenever you're doing networking, so you can figure out where it's breaking at. Now you can just watch your Playmaker states. You can make variables visible in the inspector. But depending on what platform you're on, that might not necessarily work, especially if you're like doing build tests to VR, mobile devices. You want to be able to see what's going on, or even WebGL. I do a lot of WebGL projects. It's not really easy to see. So first thing I like to do is I like to add a canvas to my project. So I'm just going to go UI canvas, and we are going to never do constant pixel size, always have it scale with screen size. And I'm just going to put reference resolution 1920 by 1080. Okay, when I'm doing WebGL, I'll do 960 by 600. All right, so we have a canvas. I'm going to switch to 2D mode and hit F, so it just focuses on the canvas. And we're going to add some text to this. So UI Text Mesh Pro. Very small. You know what? How do I want, that's what I want. All right. I'm not even sure what I did. What did I do? Did I hit that? Yeah, okay. I turned off the skybox and effects and stuff so that it's easier to see here. All right, so I'm going to make this, I think I like to keep it white. And we're going to put this, I'm going to hold Alt and Shift, and I'm going to anchor this in the top left. And I like to also give it like a little bit of padding on the left and on the top. And let's see how it looks in the game window. Not bad, not bad at all. Okay, so first thing that I want here is I want this to be telling me the region. All right, so I'm going to go region, and then I'm not even going to have these labeled. It's just so much extra text to worry about. So I'm just going to go region. And you know what? Let's do it. Let's make it labeled. So here's what we'll do. We'll do some fancy stuff here. So I'm just going to create an empty. Okay, and we're going to center this up in the top left. And I want this is going to. I want all of my debug stuff right there. Okay, we're going to call this debug pun. And I want to do a, I'm going to add a component. I'm going to add a vertical layout group. And I don't want to force expand anything, all right? But let's just keep the children aligned upper left. And then I'm going to create another empty, and we're going to call this region. And you know what? I do want it to expand width. I want it to child force width, control expand. Now if I go to region, you can see it goes over there. Here's another fun thing is you can go here and do content size fitter and vertical fit preferred size. And right now it's made it like 0 because there's nothing in there. All right, so if I put this as label, we'll call it region label, and we drop this in region. Did that change it? Oh, sad, it didn't. All right, then we're not going to do that. We're going to remove the content size fitter. All right, so we got our region, we got our debug panel, we have our region, but we want the height to match the label, so about 50. Yeah, and then region label, let's keep that up in the top left of its parent. Why? I don't understand. Oh, the yellow box is the padding. Okay, but let's get rid of the margins then. There we go. All right, better. And but I still want to keep the padding on the left. Check out the game window. Looking good. Okay, so we got a region label, and then let's just duplicate that. But I want it to be pushed to the right. So my region label first, my width doesn't need to be that long. Okay, and then this one is, I'm just call it region state, but my region, I want it to have a horizontal layout group. Boom. How cool is that, right? Ooh, not big enough. And whoop. And then region state, get rid of my padding. Cool. All right, so yeah, so I'm just gonna make that deleted. Let's call it null. Yeah, let's call it null. Great. Okay, so now we have our region. Oh, yes, we have our region, and well, we have our debug panel, and then we have our region. I'm controlling the width, but my region is just a little big. I don't know why that is. Interesting. Oh, well, I'm just gonna leave it. All right, and so what else do we want? So I'm gonna duplicate this, and boom, it automatically lays it out nice and pretty, so we'll be able to see it just nice. So maybe we want, what are some other things that I want? So I'm gonna connect to the region, and then room, okay? Room access. So we're gonna call this room label. And I'm just put a room question mark. How did we get in the room? And leave that as null. So this will let us know, did we create the room or did we join the room? And then I'm going to create another one, and we're going to call this room name. And we're going to call this room name. And we need it to be a little bit wider. And see, here's what's nice about the layout groups is it automatically moves stuff over. Room name label. Philip, get to the networking stuff. I know how to do UI. I'm sorry, I love UI now. It used to drive me nuts, but now I know how to do it. Room name state. And trust me, this is totally worth setting up. So we got a room name. And then I want to know actor. So we'll call this actor, and we're going to call this actor. We're going to call this actor label, and let's get that size back down. Really, I could put content size fitters on these texts, and that they would be fine. And then we're going to call this actor label. So what an actor is it's the number UR of the room. So when a player joins a room, they're assigned an actor number. I think that's just a little bit too big still. And I can't think of anything else that I would want. Maybe player count. I don't always get that, but we can do player count. and we'll come here and we'll go count label.
I love to count.
We'll call this players. Increase the width. All right, and we're going to call this count state. I don't know. All right, so we have region, we have the room name, we have the actor, and we have how many players. All right, I think that's good for now. So let's go to actually setting up some networking. All right, so the first thing we want to do to start setting up Photon is in every scene, you need a Playmaker Photon Proxy. So if we go to, maybe it's in Window, Photon Unity Networking. No, it's probably in Playmaker. That would make sense. We can also get it from the project folder, but I just like to add it from here. Components, tools, add-ons, Photon Networking. Components, add Photon Proxy to scene. There you go. That is the method of adding the Photon Playmaker Proxy. If you don't add this, it's not going to work. All right, so there we got it. Sometimes I put it at the top there. And then what we need is we need a kind of our Photon Manager, and we could just put it right on here. We could just add a component. I've done that many times, so I think I might just do that. Yeah, so I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to add component, and I'm just going to call this pun connection. No, I'm going to call this FSM. Not calling it anything. I'm looking for an FSM. I could also have right-clicked over here to add an FSM. And I'm going to give this the name of pun connection. Again, that doesn't matter. That's just up to you. And I can click edit. Here we are over here setting up a pun connection. All right. So double clicking to open up our actions panel. And the first thing we need is nothing. So, oh wait, we do need something. So what we're going to do here, and you might not have done this a lot if you're just starting out with Playmaker, you might not use a lot of global transitions, but with Photon Pun, we're going to use a lot of global transitions. So they're all going to look like this start transition here. But as soon as this game object becomes active, you can do a number of different things. You could put a button up that you need to click on to start your connection, especially if you're going to be doing a single player version of the game or a multiplayer version of the game. That's what we would do in this state. It's like, hey, maybe we don't want to start our connection yet. Maybe we want to wait until we click this button. I watched a tutorial before where might have been Rez that did it, to where they had a master button, and so everything they did was from this one button. So when they clicked the button, it would like give them all their debug states in the button so they knew what was happening. I'm just going to show you the basics, not going to worry about the buttons. Hopefully you can figure out how you can put your own UI stuff in between these states. So first thing I'm going to do is there is a Photon category. So if I get rid of my search bar, I can go down, and it's a good idea for the first time you come in here to click on the Photon category and just read through and see everything that's available. Okay, it's really not too many. Just read through and see everything that's available. But shortcuts wise, you're either going to search for Photon or you're going to search for pun. Okay, so it could be either one of those things. But I don't even need those sometimes because I know some of the actions, there's none other related ones. So I want to connect to Best Cloud Server. All right, that's going to be the most common thing you do, especially when you first start out using Pun 2 and you're just trying to figure out how things work. Connect to Best Cloud Server is the way to go. Notice there's also connect to master, which would be if you're going to be using your own host with a specific IP address. And there's pun connect to region. I think you have to connect to a master or Best Cloud Server first before you can connect to region. I have used connect to region before in a different project, but again, I've done maybe 4 or 5 different multiplayer projects, and I just finished my first one that's like full playable. I made a multiplayer hide and seek game. And so I'm just going to do connect to Best Cloud Server. All right, so I'm going to connect to Best Cloud Server, and I really don't need to do anything else. I'm going to name this state, though, connect to Best Cloud Server, so I can see what's going on. Ooh, that's another thing that we could put in our debug panel. So let's come up here to our canvas, and let's duplicate this, and let's call this pun connection state. And I'm going to just count this as state label. And we're going to call this state. And it doesn't need to be that wide. And state. State. All right, let's go back to our proxy. And we will maximize this. And so while I'm thinking about it, let's create another FSM to this. And we'll call this state looker, state checker, state looker. Why not? That sounds fun. All right, and so we are just going to get FSM state. So game object, it's on the owner, and the FSM name is pun connection, and we're going to store this as state. And we want to do this every frame, and then we can go to set text mesh. Now, when you're setting Text Mesh Pro text, make sure you're using UGUI text. I talked about this in one of my previous tutorials. To use UGUI, you need to have special UGUI states that you can't, or actions that you can't get in the ecosystem. You have to get them off GitHub. In one of my previous tutorials, I showed where you could get it. I think what I'm going to start doing is, I already have a Patreon for some of my other YouTube channels. I might make one specifically for this one where I can put up example code and whatnot and stuff like this. So be on the lookout for a future Patreon for me. All right, so I'm going to set Text Mesh Pro state, and I'm going to specify the game object, and we know it's something called state. So we want state, and we're going to set it to state. And we're going to do that every frame. And if we just want to see that in action, I should now just be able to click play and to drink some coffee. All right, and we're connecting to Best Cloud Server right here in the state. All right, just to make this a little bit better, let's increase that width to 300, and I'm going to auto size that one. The rest of them are probably going to be okay, but I'm just going to auto size that one. All right, back up to our proxy. I'm maximizing this so it's easier for you to see what's going on. And let's go back to our pun connection. What's nice about having a lot of different FSMs in the same game object is the ability to switch between them really easy here. I mean, you can also switch between other game objects over here, but it's nice whenever you can have everything on one. All right, so we're connecting to the Best Cloud Server. Now, you think I would have some state out of here, but no. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be using global transition. So I'm going to add a state. So I want to know when I've connected to the Best Cloud Server. So when that happens, we're going to get something from Photon Engine. It's going to send us some feedback. And so we want to capture that feedback by going to Add Global Transition, Custom Events, Photon, and On Connected to Master, I believe is what we want. Double checking. Yes, so On Connected to Master. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do in this state? So we are going to join a room. Join random room. And we're going to call the state join random room so we know what's going on. And just for fun, let's add some colors here. I don't really know what the colors would represent, but just helps the brain. All right, so we're going to join random room. And whenever we are looking for a random room, we can pick what type of mode we want to do, but I just leave it by default. But what happens if there's not a room available? So we need a new state, and we're going to do Add Global Transition, Photon. And notice now we have a Photon category, but it's only showing us the ones that we've already used. So we still have to go back to Custom, then Photon, and now we're going to do On Join Random Room Failed. Be careful not to choose On Join Roomed Failed. So this would be if we told it to join a specific room, but I'm not showing you how to do that in this tutorial. So we want join random room failed. So we're going to make this, because it failed, let's make it red. And so what we're going to do in this case is we're going to create a room. We're making some assumptions here. There's nothing wrong with the network. We're just going to create a room at this point. So I'm just going to search room, pun create room. You can give it a room name, which will be useful for you if you want to be able to do other things later on. You can set your max number of players. Maybe your game is just 1v1. You can have, I think with puns free, your rooms can be as big as 8 people. But I'm just going to leave this as default. So we're going to, when we weren't able to join a random room, we're going to create a room. But what if we did create a room? Okay, so now we're going to go to Custom Events, Photon, on Create a Room. So once we create a room, what do we want to do? Well, maybe we'd want to spawn a player. All right, and we're not going to spawn the player in this step. My next video, we'll see what we'd be doing with players. So Photon, if we failed the room join, and now we create a room. Oh, this, I kind of want to be underneath this one. All right, so this one, creating a room, was successful, and we're going to make you green. All right, so what if joining the random room was successful? So we're going to add a state, and we're going to add a global transition, custom, Photon, on joined room. Now this one doesn't have to be random, just it's checking to see if we joined any room. I'll make this one green as well. Green. And we're going to do spawn a player for this one too. Okay, maybe that's not what you want to do when you create your rooms. But so now we're going to connect to the best cloud server. When it's connected, it's going to try to join a random room. If that fails, it's going to create a room. And then once it creates a room, it's going to spawn the player. Or joining the random room was successful, then it's going to spawn the player. Oh, I got to... Ooh, you know what we could do is we could combine these together, but I'm going to keep them separate. All right, spawn... we have hosts. If you're not a host, I guess you'd be a guest, spawn guest player. And we'll call this one spawn host player. Now, one thing to note is hosts can sometimes change during the rooms. But yeah, let's see what happens here. So let's unmaximize this bad boy. And we're really not going to see any change here because I haven't told it to do anything with these other things. So all we know is, there it is. See, we're going through our state, and so now we spawn the host player because we're running the room. All right, so now let's add some debug stuff here. So on connected to master, on joining room, let's set Text Mesh Pro GUI text, and we want to tell it how we did this room. So we're going to specify the game object, and we're going to call this room access. I don't remember what it was called. It's probably room access, but let's go. No, it's not room access. It's just room. Nope, it's not room label. It's room state. Let's lock this. All right, room state. Region state? Oh, let's call it room state. There we go. And so room state. There we go. And we are going to say that we joined. Let's go ahead and copy that. But if we created the room, ooh, wait, not this one. Delete. On joined room, we will say that we joined. And on creating a room, we will say that we created. And then we also want to, I think it's pun, we'll just say get room name. All right, get room properties. I only have a few more minutes here. Let's maximize this because I can't see it very well. Get room properties, we want room name, which could be something pretty crazy if we didn't give the room a name to start out with. So room name. And let's get player count while we're here. Player count. I heard somebody in a tutorial before call this camel format. I like that, where there's a hump in the middle. I like using camel format. Yeah, so we have player name, player count. I'm not sure why it took me off that when I minimized it. All right, so we're going to do that. We got room name, and we have player count. So now I can copy, paste, move you down. And we want to set room name. So, whoa, not room name label. We want room name state, and we want to set this as room name. Copy, paste. And then we want players. So player count, count state, and we're going to go to convert the player count. Cool, cool. Now, this isn't going to update when new people join. So we would have to set up another global transition for that on player joined room. We would check the state again and put it in there. All right, and then actor. So let's also get player Photon network get player properties. Yes. And collapsey. So we want this local player. We want, and it's useful to get their nickname a lot of times too. But we're just going to go actor number, and we're going to call this actor number. And then we're going to set text mesh pro. And we're going to call this, we're going to put this on actor state. I did not call it actor state. I apparently called it actor label again. Weird. All right, actor state. And we want this to be convert actor number. And so all we have over here is just setting the room state. So now we want to come over here and we're going to get all these guys, copy those, and paste actions. So just to make sure we're good here, we're getting the room properties, we're getting the room name and the player count, and we are setting the room name, we are setting the player count, then we're getting the player's actor number. Because some games you don't need nicknames and stuff like that, and actor numbers are just integers. So they're really easy to handle, and so we're setting the actor number on the screen. So now if we hit play, ooh, I never got region. I need to do that. Out of coffee. Interesting. Something didn't happen. So we don't have our room name, we don't have our actor, we don't have our player count. Wonder why that happened. Let's come over here. Let's look at our Photon Proxy. So it looks like it got stuck here. Yeah, okay. So we have the room name. We have to, with this guy, we have to force it into the next state in order for it to do these things. These events, a success event doesn't work for some reason. I don't know what counts as success. The only things I've been able to get to work are is in room event and is not in room event. Those are the only two events I've been able to get to work. All right, so let's fix this. All right, so let's maximize. So it's getting stuck here. So we need to take all of these, copy, we're going to add state, and we're going to paste actions, and then over here we're going to delete them, and it's just as simple as next frame event, or better yet, whoa, I've done next frame events, but let's just see what happens if we do is in room event, just a new event of post labels. All right, so we're just going to post the labels. Post labels. And I think this one might be all right. So I'm not going to add it over to the joined room one until I'm sure that it works. Yes. All right. So you can see the room name is a bunch of garbage, but we do have our actors one, and we have one player in here, and the state that we're in is post labels. All right, I didn't get my region, but that's a really important one to get. So once we're in here, let's just put in this last one. Let's get region, and I'll put it at the end. And we're just going to call this region, and then set text mesh pro, copy paste, put it to the bottom. We're going to put it on region state. I see it right there. Hopefully there's only one. And convert. No, we don't need to convert. We just go to region. Cool. Yeah. And let's do room name state. Let's make this bad boy much wider and auto size it. I hate the minimum's 18. I'm setting it to 1. And then let's do the same thing with, well, my other state's probably all right, but we're going to set the minimum to 1. All right. And play. I almost grabbed a roll of toilet paper thinking it was my coffee. There we go. We are in the US. We created the room. Here's our room name. We are actor number 1. There is 1 player in the room, and we are on state post labels in our Playmaker Photon Proxy. All right, so that's going to be the end of this video. Take a look at the next video where we go even deeper. So now we've made a connection. Let's essentially create a multiplayer game. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.